Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. Welcome back, and thank you for downloading another episode of Topper Talk Podcast. As always, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Topper_Talk. And go over to our YouTube channel at Topper Talk Podcast. Give us a follow over there. Subscribe. You'll get every update as we upload those videos. Make sure you're sharing those episodes. Tell a friend. Send a link to the WKU fans in your life. As always, I've got Tyler here with me. Tyler, man, you ready to jump into a big Liberty preview?
Yeah, man, let's chop it up on this one because, I mean, honestly, up until now, I think this is the biggest game in conference that we got so far.
For sure. Now, this podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you're looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. And I say it every episode, and I'm going to continue saying it, man. They are literally the best investment you can make. If you do end up having to move or you have moving needs, definitely give them a call. See how they can help you out. Get a free quote. It's going to be worth your time. All right, now before we get into the main part of this episode, previewing this game versus Liberty, let's get caught up with our Red Towel wrap-up. That is summarizing everything that we've missed in WKU athletics since our last episode. So, Tyler, what's the Red Towel wrap-up look like this week?
All right, so last week, softball, Raylan Smith threw a perfect game versus Lakeland Community College. She was the first WKU player to throw a perfect game since former Hilltopper All-American Miranda Kramer did in 2015. On Saturday, WKU football unveiled their position-specific big red decals to be worn versus Liberty, which I think is chef kiss perfect. Also on that day, volleyball, they played Sam Houston State University and swept them 3-0. The following day, they also had a rematch with Sam Houston State University and once again swept them 3-0. So, welcome to the conference. On 10/21, the baseball team played Bellarmine and absolutely stomped their butts 17-7. The 2023-2024 WKU Hilltoppers concluded fall play defeating the Bellarmine Knights at Nick Dean's for their third victory of the fall. With the win, the Tops finished the fall with a record 3-0. With the two other wins coming against Team Ontario and Southern Indiana last week. And then also on the 21st, soccer team played Liberty and defeated them 1-0. So it's a good week for WKU sports with a great Red Tail wrap-up. Moff, back to you.
Yeah, one other thing that was missed there is on a couple days ago, we also unveiled the renderings for the WKU Fieldhouse and press box. Finally, we've been hearing about it for well over a year now, probably pushing 2 years. People on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, have been clamoring for renderings to be dropped. When's ground going to break? When's that actually going to happen? Is it actually going to happen? They dropped those renderings just a couple days ago. They said groundbreaking was like November 14th, next month. Said the press box will be completed this offseason, would be ready for kickoff next year. And the field house, which would house marching, baseball, esports, obviously football, baseball would have a section of it. It would be completed by 2025, and it looks absolutely sharp, long overdue, and well-deserved for all the programs and all the student athletes. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, jumping into the main segment of this episode, that is previewing our upcoming game with Liberty. We are back at home this coming Tuesday to host Liberty at 6:30 p.m. The game will be on ESPNU and will be preceded by a free Jordan Davis concert at 5 p.m. on the South Lawn. Now, before we jump into the game specifics, we are going to debut a new segment for our home games, and that is our Hilltopper game day weather. So let's go to that clip right now. All right, and we are debuting a new segment today for this home game upcoming this Tuesday versus Liberty. We're going to be giving you the Hilltopper game day weather, and we've got a special guest with us that has blessed us with his presence, is going to help us out in that arena. And I think a lot of you are going to be very familiar with his work. He is a WKU student. He is an aspiring meteorologist. He is a viral TikToker, and quite frankly, he's just an all-around WKU Hilltopper fanatic. We've got Hunter Lee joining us tonight, going to give us the game day weather. Hunter, glad you're here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for letting me be here. I think you hit everything. My TikTok handle is Huntsman8804. Same on Instagram. Weather updates, WKU updates. That's about all I do at this point. The good thing is that it's supposed to be a really nice day on Tuesday. Game day starts off with it being a little bit cloudy, but by game time, it's supposed to be clear, and it's supposed to be 70 degrees, no rain in the forecast at all. Then temperature at the end of the game is 62, so I would bring a light jacket if you're easy to get cold. It's great weather for the pre-game concert. The good thing is that it's not really hot and it won't be causing the players a lot of issues with their blackout uniforms.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like we're going to have perfect football weather, is what I'd like to call it, for a mid-October game. Especially as cool and as rainy as it's been the last week, it's nice to see that temperature going to be pointing up coming into Tuesday. Blackout, like you said, we've got the pregame concert, Jordan Davis, then kickoff at 6:30. Beautiful weather. Hunter, before we let you go, we appreciate you giving us that weather update, but do you have any game day predictions as far as how this game versus Liberty might play out? How do you see it going?
Well, first off, we have an amazing uniform combo and the amazing helmets. I gotta shout that out. That's huge. And then, with my opinion, we have to play all 4 quarters. And we have to have endurance. I feel like the football team needs to not just play 1 quarter football. We have to play all 4 quarters, and they've really struggled with that. And I also see that our receivers need to actually catch the ball. I think that's one of the big issues. And if we do the game right against Liberty, I think we can win, and it's going to be a pretty close game.
I 100% agree with you. And I know our main segment's really going to dive into that we need to play a complete full game, 4 quarters, like you said. The game is 2 halves. We've got to show up and play the whole thing. We're going to do this every home game. We're going to have Hunter on if he'll bless us with his presence to give us that insight to what the Hilltopper game day weather is going to look like, because I know a lot of people aren't looking that far ahead. And when we drop these recaps and previews, 3-4 days before game day, hopefully that'll help people get ready for what they're looking like weather-wise. And we're glad that Hunter has decided to join us. Definitely give him a follow. We appreciate you being here, Hunter. Appreciate you being here, and go Tops.
Go Tops, and hopefully we can extinguish the flames.
All right, and thank you, Hunter, for giving us that game day weather update. Jumping into the game, the ESPN Power Index currently likes Liberty to win this game with a 56% chance to only 44% chance for WKU. These teams have played a total of 3 times, with Liberty leading the all-time series 3-0. We last played in 2020, with Liberty winning that game 30-24. That was the debut of Malik Willis at quarterback for Liberty, and WKU was starting Piggy T. And I think we all remember how that season went. Liberty currently enters the game at 7-0. They are currently in first place in the conference. WKU sits at 4-3 with a 2-1 record in conference play after last week's loss to Jacksonville State. The betting line opened for this game Liberty is a 3-point favorite with the over-under set at 65.5. So both the Power Index and Vegas right now likes Liberty's chances to come in and get a victory here at the Houch. So hopefully we obviously doesn't hope that plays out. This game could potentially determine who hosts the Conference USA Championship game, obviously depending on how the rest of the season plays out. So Tyler, just knowing all that, looking at the series history, knowing how well Liberty's playing this year, 7-0, they are undefeated, looking like a really strong ball club. How is this game looking on paper to you?
Well, another week, another opposing team that does run the ball just a few more times than they pass. Liberty is a good team, hence 7-0. I think back when we did the conference preview, I said this would probably be one of our better rivals, and I was most excited for this school to come in because of I remember the last game when Malik Willis was our quarterback and how bad that game just hurt. I think this is going to be another slugfest. I don't think it'll really be a shootout. I think the points will be kept low, but I think this one's going to be a damn good game to go see in person.
Yeah, Liberty comes into this game averaging 36.3 points per game. They average 488 yards per game, with 213 of those coming through the air and 275 of those being rushing yards. They're currently converting 48.8% of their third down opportunities. And to help us further dive into this year's Liberty team, I got a couple guys from the Fan the Flames football podcast to join us. I got Ben and Jeremiah to join us. Let's go to that clip right now and find out more about this Liberty football team before we play. All right, and I am joined by Jerry and Ben, both from the Fan the Flames podcast. Guys, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having us on. Really happy. We got Mr. Jeremiah Flincham on the podcast tonight. He's a heck of a dude. He's one of my best friends. Love him to death.
Yes, sir. Feeling is mutual. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Just, I guess, in your short tenure now as conference mates with us, Jeremiah, you've been one of the most visible and I don't want to say vocal because you're very engaging, I guess would be the correct word, on Twitter. And it's been a very enjoyable, just first few months getting to know the Liberty fan base. And really everyone that I've dealt with has been super friendly. I've not had any abrasive interactions really. So I've really got to enjoy getting to know you all as a fan base. And now obviously we're getting, into the meat of some fall and winter sports, and that's going to be ramping up and we'll see each other more on the field of play. So I appreciate y'all coming. If you'd like to go ahead and I guess tell us a little bit about yourselves, your Liberty fanhood, the podcast that you all run, anything you want to talk about, just, give us a short bio of yourselves.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start. I started my undergrad at Liberty in the fall of 2012. Went on to finish my undergrad in 2017, took a little extra time, and then took a little time off and did my master's there as well. Now I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and not too far from you guys up there in Bowling Green. But ever since I started school there, I've loved the school. Had a lot of great experiences, met a lot of great people, such as Ben and the rest of the guys on our team. It's been fun to be able to watch this team, all of our teams, honestly, rise up from where they had been when I first started there. And, it's a great school to be able to support. Love everything it stands for. And, it's kind of a little bit short spiel, a little rundown. Let Ben go now.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, glad to have you, Ben.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit different than Jeremiah when it comes to that. I didn't go to Liberty for undergrad. I actually went just for grad school. Started in 2019, went through the pandemic there, and then finished up actually later that year in 2020. Only was there for a year and a half technically. Stayed in the Lynchburg area. It was 2021. We had started those Malik's last year, Malik Willis. It was a few weeks before the bowl game, and I was like, I'm thinking about starting up a podcast. I'd done it in the past. What I done before was cover all the college football teams, but more draft focused and kind of looking at that and stuff. And I just kind of realized that I didn't have the time for that, to put that amount of work in, because I wanted to be a scout in undergrad. And then at that point I was like, this ain't going to be worth my time. And then I was like, well, Liberty's, I'm getting really invested into their football team. I'd followed them for a while before then, and Penn State was my team. And of course I grew up in Buffalo, so I watched the Bills. So those were the Bills and the Penn State were the teams that I followed the most. But after a while, it's just like, man, it's just nice because I'm here in Lynchburg. I had gotten season tickets in 2021. And I was like, why am I not? There's, we have a couple of different outlets here and there. One internally, and then a Sea of Red. Shout out to those guys, good friends of ours. They were doing some stuff, but they weren't covering recruiting on like a podcast style. It was more of like, hey, this guy committed and stuff. And I was like, I need to start doing this. This is what I love doing anyway. So why don't I do it for Liberty and be that crew? And then actually used an old logo from the old podcast, so I didn't have the branding and stuff before. But I did have the name, and then I invested into a logo and branding and all that. And I did it by myself for a while. Reached out to Jeremiah, reached out to Kyle, reached out to James later that year as the season came, and we got good friends. Jeremiah is always visiting Lynchburg because he still has a lot of friends here. We became friends, and I'm like starting it. And it was funny. Someone just messaged me, and they're like, how do you, from Liberty Twitter, he's like, how did you get all four of you guys together? And it's like, well, that's a long story, but to be honest, it's just we started reaching, and then I was like, you know what, these three guys, I really think that they could stick, and they're not really tied to anybody else. So like, let's just have them on, and we'll see how it goes. And man, last year was a blast. This year's been really fun, but we haven't really gotten together very much as last year. Everybody's been busy. So yeah, that's where we're at now. We'll be coming on 2 years doing it, but this is our second season together, I guess you could say. So
yeah, man, understandable. Life is busy, but it's awesome. I love, meeting and talking to other fans and podcasts of schools, and especially you all as a newer school to Conference USA. I love everything about your fan base that I've seen so far. Again, like I said, there's been zero negative interaction. You brought up Malik Willis. I think Hilltopper fans, and I'm sure you all remember that we did play in 2020. You all came to Bowling Green and gave us a nice loss. Malik had a very good game. I think that might have been his first game at Liberty, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so we kind of didn't know what to expect with him transferring from Auburn, if I recall correctly. And it was a good game, and y'all had a very good season. And I think that kind of leads right into, where from there, where you are today. I mean, you are heavily invested in all your athletics, your campus, your all your venues, just everything looks amazing from what I've seen. I haven't made the trip over to get to see campus yet, and to see your facilities, but everything I've seen just on the internet, on Twitter, etc., everything looks amazing and nice. And I think this transition, as a conference member, I think from a WKU perspective, from my perspective, we expected you all to be competitive across the board day one. I don't think that there's anybody that should be overlooking you all as an athletic program in school, because you have, everything that you need to be competitive day one. So I guess that leads us right into our first question is, coming into this season, what were the preseason expectations for this Liberty football team this year?
All right. I was hoping maybe Jeremiah would want to speak on that one, because we're going to have the same opinion. But yeah, close. I don't know. Jeremiah, he's got a lot of insight on the program. He connects with a lot of people, which is something that I really appreciate with him. But he's not really much of a guy that goes and scouts all the recruiting guys unless, of course, they come to his Liberty area and he goes and sees a 4-star recruit that we just got. But he's not really one that's really looking at the tape. So I'm someone who I love that. So I was watching tape on all of our transfer portal guys and all that. And when all this was going down, there's a lot of people worried about, hey, we're losing all these guys. We're losing this. We're not, getting quite the amount of, we lost a lot, to say the least. But my expectations was with this schedule, outside of, y'all and some others, there's only, we thought UB was going to be better than they were, and then we went and kicked their butts. And I know all about UB because growing up around there, and I followed the team growing up. So I knew all about them. I was kind of shocked, actually. And so, this is the big one coming up. But our expectations were, hey, let's see with a new coach, this and that, 8-4 maybe. But I thought that was our floor. Still could be at this point, but who knows? But I really do. It's just there was just a little bit of that rumbling of, oh shoot, we lost 50% of our roster. But what wasn't looked at was the fact that what we got out of the transfer portal and out of our recruiting class was so much. Our recruiting class this year, there's multiple freshmen starting. Or having significant playing time. And a lot of those transfer guys, they're impact transfer guys. They're playing. And I think a lot of people underrated some of our weapons that we'll get to later that were returning on offense. They were like, oh, well, he's been injured, blah, 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 this and that. But they didn't ever really, they got that recency bias, They're like, oh, he didn't do anything for us last year because he was injured. I don't care about that. They still have talent, So that's what my expectations were. I really had a good feeling, and I know that Chadwell's offense was gonna fit and be suited for a lot of these players more than Freeze. Freeze didn't even look at a running back for multiple years. He was like, I'm not even gonna recruit one. I'll just grab one in the portal. And when we would lose a guy like we did late last year, our star Day Hunter, then all we had was like a walk-on running back. And I was like, what are we doing here? What are we? So now Chadwell did the opposite and went out and grabbed 4 guys and then also recruited one. So we got a much better room this year overall in every position group, whether people want to believe it or not. So I really had some really high expectations.
And Jeremiah, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm always your hopelessly optimistic person, to be honest. I will always be like, oh yeah, we're gonna win out, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. It wasn't necessarily like he said the case with a lot of our fan base. Like he was saying, a lot of us were a little bit nervous about, it's a new coaching staff. Again, we lost 50% of our roster, things of that nature. But my expectations personally were pretty high. Nothing personally against Western Kentucky, because you are one of the best teams on our schedule. But overall, as a schedule, I looked at the schedule and I was like, with this schedule, I feel like we're gonna, win out most of the games. We might lose 2. I was like, okay, we always have like a trap game, and I thought Jacksonville State could have been a trap game. At this point, you guys could be a trap game, however you want to look at that now, with y'all having a not as good of a season as you may have thought you were going to have. But yeah, I'm always, like I said, hopelessly optimistic. So my expectations have always been pretty high, whereas some of the fan base, they're pleasantly surprised now that we're still undefeated and looking to hopefully remain undefeated after this week.
Yeah, I guess that kind of segues right into, obviously you had, hopes of only losing, maybe 1 or 2 games, if any. Just a second. So far this season, you are 7-0. Now I haven't watched every minute of every football game that you all have played, but, how are those expectations feeling now, sitting at 7-0, coming into a game with Western Kentucky? We were the preseason favorite. We obviously have not kind of lived up to that billing, in my opinion. I think a lot of people, a lot of fans in our own fan base would say that. How are those expectations looking now, sitting at 7-0, coming into this game in just a couple days?
I think it's all going to depend upon which one of our teams show up, per se. Is the team that played Jacksonville State, that's that second half against Jacksonville State, is that team going to show up for the entire game, or at least, again, the second half of the game to pull away toward the end? Or is it going to be the team that showed up against, Sam Houston State at home? Not putting Sam Houston State down, but obviously that wasn't our strongest game. So I'm in the mindset of, like, if we play like we did against Sam Houston State, I'm not super confident in the game. But if we play like we played against Jacksonville State, especially in the second half, I think we'll be fine.
And Ben, what about you? How are the preseason expectations looking now as you're sitting at 7-0 coming into this game with Western Kentucky?
Well, for me, it ain't nothing. It's like, okay, I could see us getting to this point. But I think as a fan base as a whole, a lot of people are pleasantly surprised in some ways, but I think there's also a little bit of that. We're spoiled. We've been spoiled. Let's just be honest. So when MTSU comes to our house last week and puts up all those points, they're like, "Oh no, this is their record." And I was like, "Hey, they kept it close. I know y'all took them to the woodshed, but they kept it close with Missouri. They had some good moments. And to be honest, if they had an offensive line, or their offensive line played like they did against us, I mean, they got some ballers out there. They got some real Metcalf. He ain't no joke. Neither's Chisholm. So, like, seeing that, and then also Sam Houston State too. Jeremiah mentioned it real quick, but like, yeah, they're not a very good team overall, but their defense is really, really talented, and they have a lot of good guys and a lot of experience. And to be honest, at this point, what do they have to lose? All they're playing for is just a decent record and developing, because they can't play for the championship. They can't play for a bowl. I mean, they could technically if there wasn't enough, but I mean, now they can't because they've lost too many games. But still, like, they're going to still give everybody's best. I mean, a lot of those guys, they still want to make the pros. They still want to look at maybe make one of the spring leagues here that's merging XFL and USFL. So, like, they still got to put some tape out there, and they have a lot of senior guys that can play. And there might be one or two that might make a camp roster, and so what I mean. That's the thing is, like, so the tough thing is, like, this seems like the last game for people. You know what I mean? Like, Western Kentucky, and then it's the rest of the season. We got it. Like, it's like, oh, this is it. Because all we play after y'all is Louisiana Tech, who's been streaky. But don't get me wrong, they got some players. And as you guys saw with that comeback. And then ODU. ODU is a pretty solid team this year. They have a very, very talented coach in Ricky Ronnie. And then, like, UMass, yeah, they're not very good. But still, you don't want to take them for granted at home. And then UTEP. That's going to be actually, to be honest, if there's a game that let's say we beat y'all Tuesday night, I'm terrified we're going to lose that UTEP game, because we'll beat the next few. We'll get all excited about ODU because that's an in-state rival, and then we'll be like, okay, easy walking through UMass, and then we have to freaking play UTEP, So it's essentially Western Kentucky, and then, okay, Louisiana Tech, okay, that has some weight. And then we go into non-con, which is like, oh, that doesn't matter. We've already clinched our conference spot, so our champion spot. So it's just like, that's what I'm a little bit worried about.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially talking about ODU. I mean, they're much impressed. Having watched them play a couple games, I mean, that they run an RPO. They've got a strong running game, good offensive line, and a good defense that makes plays. that's a tough game. They're generally a pretty good program. I know they had a couple down years. They didn't play a COVID year. So they're stocking back up. That's a good recruiting hotbed. So, yeah, like you said, that's going to be a tough game. Both of you kind of touched on this next point, as far as, flipping a staff, coming into a new conference, replacing a whole lot of players, really having to dive into the portal, coming into the season with an unknown quarterback. I remember coming into game one, we didn't know who might be named the starter there for you all. So just, I guess, how has all the staff and roster turnover and transition, and even just coming into Conference USA, kind of having a home now, how has that been for Liberty? As far as, has it been seamless? Because usually when you have a new coach, and we've gone through several over the last decade, you're just always kind of worried about what you're getting. And you've got an experienced guy, but sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get, if it's all going to fit together from day one. So how's that been for you all, the transition?
I'll answer that. So Conference USA, there was a lot of people upset about it, to say the least. They were like, oh no, we're going to this league that's falling apart. And it's like, well, guess what? We can kind of help it repair. We can help, and there's still some quality teams left. And I think a lot of people didn't know what they were talking about when it came to like Jacksonville State, for example. There was a lot of people like, oh no, we're not going to be very good. They're good. Very, very good. And I mean, they don't even have a quarterback, to be honest. They don't know who their quarterback is. They've been rotating two, and then they had, when they played us, they were like, well, Smothers isn't doing well enough. Webb's hurt, so we're going to throw in a freshman, So, it's just there's a lot with this conference that people don't realize, that there's going to be benefits. You're still playing for a conference title. Yeah, it's going to be a lot harder, even with, getting the bid for the 12-team playoff, but at least you have a chance. And an independent, you don't, especially if you're not Notre Dame. So that's been an interesting thing. Plus, I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I'm actually excited about this year's men's basketball season. We were in the ASUN, and sorry, I can't get up for Central Arkansas when we're going to beat them by 25. Hey, let's go do this game. Nah, I'm good, man. And because, I mean, I'm a football guy first, and I love all the other sports, and I support all the Liberty, but it's just, it was tough. And if you look at it now, not to get too much of basketball, but 22 versus 11 in the KenPom rankings for conference, that's a huge jump. So I don't think people realize how much of a difference in talent we're going to have in all these other sports. And that's the thing, is people are like, oh, again, going back to the MTSU game. Oh no, we lost. I mean, we won by 7. We almost lost that game. We were struggling. And it's like, yeah, because guess what they're playing for too? A conference championship. This is no longer about playing against UMass and ODUs, which don't count against their conference record. This is, everybody's going to give you your best, and everybody's going to play all out. And especially with a Liberty, and that has gained reputation throughout the years, us and y'all are the big dogs sitting at the tops. Of course, we're going to get everybody's best. Everybody knows about Western Kentucky, Austin Reed, and Malachi Corley. Everybody is known about, Malik Willis, Freeze these past couple of years, and now you got Chadwell coming in. They're going to give you your best. And people are like, oh, no, we're scared. What are we scared of, essentially, that? Yeah, they're going to get, and there's been some interesting things what do you mean a conference game matters more than, you're telling me these past couple of years didn't matter? Okay, you tell me when we win 8 straight and then we lose 4 straight, essentially, it feels like, I know it was technically we had lost 1 to Wake and then we lost out the year, but it's you're telling me that those players are still getting up for what, the bowl game that they're going to play in a month and a half, So it's just, I don't know. It's just, I think we get too much lost into worrying about things we can't control. We got the invite. We're happy here, we're happy to build with you all. So yeah.
Agreed. 100%. Jeremiah, what about you? How's the transition been from your point of view?
Honestly, my sentiments are like exactly the same as Ben's. Like he said, we had several fans who were kind of disgruntled about, oh, it's a weak conference. We're gonna have a poor strength of schedule, da 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 da, whatever. But as I said earlier, I'm one of the hopeless optimistics, and Ben is also. So I was just happy that we got into a conference, and that like he was saying that all these games are going to mean something. Like it's nice to be able to watch New Mexico State play UTEP, and it's like, okay, cool. This game means something to us as well because it means something in the rankings of the conference. So I think it's been a good transition. I think a lot of our fans have come around, and then like I said, everything that Ben said is on point. So don't have a whole lot else to add to that.
Yeah, and I think it's funny, that perception that people have of joining a weak Conference USA, and I know it's not the same Conference USA across the board as it has been the last couple of years, but it's been stronger than people want to give it credit for. And the other side of that coin is that the conference realignment and shuffling is not over. There's more wrinkles and waves that are coming down the pipe. And if your fans want to look at it as, oh no, poor us, we're in this conference, take care of what you can take care of. And then when that next round of alignment comes around, I mean, you all have the facilities and the budget and the winning that can potentially propel you to whatever that next step is. Just I don't know what those opportunities are going to look like. But again, take care of what you can take care of, and the future will take care of itself. I mean, that's stuff that's out of our control. I don't like to worry about that stuff. Typically at this point in the show, we like to highlight some of the names of the players and the stats that us Western Kentucky fans need to know about on the other team. So I'd love to hear. I know I listed 3, but if you want to rattle off more than 3, less than 3, wherever you want to rattle off it, if there's offensive or defensive players that we need to know about, we want to hear who they are, kind of have them circled, have our eye on them in the game. So let's start with the offensive guys first. Who are some notable offensive players that we need to be aware of for Liberty for this game on Tuesday?
Jeremiah, you can go, but do not take more than 3. Otherwise, we will have a talking after this podcast.
I feel like you and I are going to have some similar ones anyways. You unmuted for a second, so I thought you were going to go first. So thanks for putting me on the spot. No, just kidding. Of course, on offense, first and foremost, you're probably going to – we're both going to say Caden Salter because, my goodness, has he had a season so far. I don't know all of his stats off the top of my head, but, he's put up some solid passing yards. He's put up some touchdowns. He's made a few errors that led to some picks, but he's only got like 3 or 4 in the season, so he's doing pretty well in that category as well. He's able to run the ball really well, get out of the pressure. So that's one of our top guys that they need to look out for. And then his favorite target this season, CJ Daniels, our wide receiver. He's maybe the number 2 guy on offense to look out for because he's been able to make some great catches. He laid out for a ball. I think it was Sam Houston State. He laid out for a ball. It was just a beautiful catch. And he's just been able to make a huge impact this season. And then third, we have interchangeable guys at running back. We have great running backs in general. We have 3 really solid guys. But Quentin Cooley, the transfer from Wake Forest, has been just phenomenal this season. He's been able to put up a lot of touchdowns, active a little bit in the passing game, blocking game, obviously. He's just been a huge impact for the team. So those are my 3 guys. I'll let Ben go on his now.
Awesome.
So I'm going to piggyback off of one of them. I'll piggyback off 2 of them technically, but I just want to expound on it. Well, first of all, we call Caden Salter the Caden Salter experience. That's a little like, I don't think we as a whole fan base say it, but I know that within our circle we do. So with all that being said, he has some moments where you're like, oh my goodness, this guy should be a first-round draft pick. And then he has other moments where you're like, all right, you get this guy off the football team. Now, this year, it's been way less than the past couple years, especially last year. So very happy of what he's improved on, and I'm excited to see him. This is going to be his biggest stage this year. It's honestly. So I'm excited to see what he does in this quarterback battle per se. Then with CJ Daniels, that kid's special. I've been saying it forever, but he's the guy that I alluded to earlier saying, oh, well, he's been hurt last year. And then he balled out, and I was like, I told you guys so. But y'all don't remember him balling out 2 years ago because you guys have recency bias. Just like how we just talked about with the conference. That's literally, if you had to give a definition of our fan base, it's recency bias. That's all it is. And I think that's mostly fan base. But I've had people walk in, man, those Liberty schedules used to be better when we weren't in Conference USA. Yeah, you mean the 1 year last year that was the anomaly that we hosted BYU and Virginia Tech and we weren't going to do again for a very long time? Anyways, not to get off too, but that just shows you we're like, oh, we don't have any receivers. No good. And then CJ Daniels balls out and people are like, yeah, he's good. Yeah. I'm like, I told you, So, and we've had a couple. I want to mention another guy who's really broken out. We have Frith, and then we have Smoot. Smoot's been hurt, but Trayon Sibley, man, he is a very talented guy at wide receiver. And Bentley Hanshaw, he's a transfer from BYU. He's like 29 years old. Not really, but it feels like it because he's pretty old because he did that whole Mormon mission trip and stuff. So he's got a couple years extra plus a red shirt or two, So I think he had a medical red shirt too. Don't quote me on that, but he, very talented tight end who's very faster than you think. Last year we played against Toledo in a bowl and we did a double pass to him and he beat safeties and corners. And I'm like, where was this all year, Freeze? Why did you not scheme up more plays for this guy? What is wrong with you? And then, and then he loses last night to his stepbrother. Anyways, Mr. Kiffin. So, it's just, I just didn't understand. Like, we had all this talent, and now you're finally seeing it. So, those are a few offensive weapons, and we got a good offensive line. Shout out to X Gadlin. He's the dude.
Yeah. Talking about Caden Salter. I mean, I remember coming into the preseason, reading my Phil Steele magazine, trying to learn about some of these teams I knew nothing about. And Mr. Steele had a lot of high praise for Caden Salter. And now looking at his stats, I think almost 1,500 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, three interceptions. And looking at last year, he's already surpassed his yards and his touchdown interception ratio is way better. Then obviously he's got to have a pretty good offensive line and some skilled players to throw the ball to. So definitely going to be very aware of that guy. What about on the defensive side of the ball? Who are some names and some guys that we need to be aware of that are going to be trying to disrupt our offense and, get us off the field?
Okay, so first I want to go to Kenny Charles on the D-line, the Haitian sensation we call him. He's just had a lights out year. He's been able to get the backfield. He's a quarterback. He's been able to stop the running backs at the line really easily. He's just made a huge impact up front. Then going back a little bit, I'm going to go with our linebacker Jerome Jolly. I think he's a junior this year, if I'm not mistaken. But he is just, he sat behind guys and he's learned from guys, and he's made some impact years prior, but this year he's gotten his starts and he has just been incredible. He's gotten some picks. He's thrown the Joker mask on a few times. He's just been able to get in and plug up some holes and make a big impact there. And then I'm going to go with our DB, Brylan Green. Yeah, I'm going to go Brylan Green. He's a sophomore. He's a young dude out of Louisiana. He's a dual sport guy. He plays for the baseball team in the outfield. He's a punt returner. And main thing, though, is he's been able to get in, get some picks, making a huge impact, getting the ball back for us. Had a beautiful pick down in Jacksonville. I was able to see that live. It was amazing to be able to see that long pass, and he just came out of nowhere and grabbed it on the 2-yard line and got the ball back for us. But yeah, those are my three guys to look out for. They're going to make a big impact this Tuesday.
I like that you just took one from each level. I really like that. Ben, what about you? Who you got? You're muted.
Shoot. So I'm going to switch it up. And so y'all have 6, all at different levels as well. So at defensive line, we got a guy. His name is TJ Bush. He's a young freshman guy. He's a true freshman, actually, and very talented guy. He was a steal. We flipped him from Coastal, and he's just a guy that's going to come in and make an impact right away. But he's still growing, and you could see it. But he's a guy, we're waiting for that breakout game, and we hope it's this one. Linebacker. Everybody was worried about linebacker these past couple weeks. I mean, because we've had some injuries with Jerome Jolly, who Jeremiah mentioned. But Tyron Dupree, I'll say Tyron Dupree and Mr. Joe Carter, Joseph Carter. He's a walk-on, and he earned a scholarship this past summer. And, man, he's balling out. But Tyron Dupree has really led this defense and became a star for our defense. He's the one that makes all the tackles. And I'll just throw in Kobe Singleton. I had a fourth out of that. Kobe Singleton, he's been our lockdown corner. If we're going to stop Corley, it's hopefully going to be him. We're probably going to have to bracket him at this point. But, yeah, Singleton is a lockdown corner. He's had a very good year. He's had some very mature moments too, especially against Sam Houston. So,
all right, now generally jump into some keys to victory. We give ours, and we'll do that on our main segment. But I want to get some keys to victory from you all. What does Liberty need to do against Western Kentucky to come to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and steal a victory on the road? So love to hear it. At least 3. If you got more than 3, again, rattle them off. We'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I'll start it off. First of all, I think stop Corley. That's honestly going to be objective number 1. Make sure that there's no explosive plays from y'all's offense. You got to, at this point, I think it's going to be a shootout. So we got to have a bend don't break defense. We've had that this year. Thankfully, we've had kind of tests, but I think this is our best test yet, obviously, especially for our defense. Offensively, we need to run the football. We need to have time of possession. We need to make sure that we, in basketball, they say, pound the air out of the rock. We need to do that in the more theoretical way with the football. Just play a little bit of keep away. That's our strength is running. We mentioned CJ Daniels and Sibley, but that's going to have to be the key on the offense. And then, to be honest, I mean, I've said ever since I played ball as a young kid, it's people don't realize the 2 most important parts of the game: special teams and turnovers. Win those 2 battles, which is the field position. We got a very good punter. Win those 2 battles. I don't know if you watched the Penn State-Ohio State game, but I was throwing stuff around when Daquan Hardy decided to not take a punt after they had pinned Ohio State, and then they lost 25 yards because he let it bounce when he could have just caught it and taken the fair catch instead of being a sissy and not receiving it and being too afraid of getting hit. You got to win those types of battles, especially in games like this, because if there is a punt, which I don't foresee a lot of it happening, if there is a few punts, those are going to be crucial. So winning those 2 battles are going to be huge.
Jeremiah, got some keys to victory for Liberty?
I do. I think my first key for our victory is going to be don't turn the ball over. If I'm not mistaken, you guys are first, or y'all are up top 5.
Yeah.
I know with like takeaways. So
Yes,
that's
we're
going to be
number
the
one in
first key is don't turn the ball over. Can't do that. Second, I know Ben said stop Corley, but I'm going to say limit the Reed to Corley connection because I know it's going to happen. Like they're a great duo. I can't expect it to not happen, but we got to contain that. I think we'll probably do some double teams in Corley, maybe have Brylan and Kobe. I don't know, but we need to limit those for sure. And then third, I want to say we got to get the Joker mask out. Got to create turnovers. If we can get maybe 1 or 2 turnovers, could be the difference in this ball game. It could be the difference between win or loss here. So those are my 3.
Absolutely. I love it. Again, I think it's going to be a really solid ball game. Now, I can't let you all get out of here without giving me a score prediction. So lay it on me. How are you seeing this game play out? Jeremiah, we'll go with you first. What do you got?
I think Ben alluded to this earlier, to a shootout. I agree with that 100%. I am going to predict a 42-38 Flames victory.
And Ben?
I've been thinking about this one for a while because I'll be honest with you. This is the one game that I said just a few weeks ago that I could see us losing 41-14. But I'm not going to go with that because last year I said, oh, we're going to lose the BYU. And then one of our co-hosts decided to say, yeah, after we stomp them, I'm going to take it over. So I'm not going to let that happen to me this year. Until we lose and I feel indifferent about this team, this is the one game that I definitely feel pretty indifferent about. If any of them this year. Jeremiah almost took my score thing, but I'm going to go instead of 42, going 41-38. How about that? By a field goal, not 4 points.
I like it. I mean, y'all did open up as 3-point favorites today. Over under was what, 65.5. So both of you are well over that. I'm going to give my score prediction, and mine is actually I'm sticking with my preseason score prediction. And even though our offense has been very Jekyll and Hyde the last few games, we've had really strong first halves against Middle Tennessee, Louisiana Tech, Jacksonville State, and then in the second half we're not making adjustments, or we're getting out coached, or we're just not executing. We're coasting to the finish line and not playing a full ball game. We've seen glimpses of our offense this year, playing really good stretches of ball, but we have been inconsistent. And I'm going to stick with my preseason victory. I'm going to stick on the optimistic train that WKU holds serve at home and gets a victory 38-31. I do think it's going to be that's the over as well. It's going to be a big shootout. It could, both of us could be well over 30, quite frankly, with the offenses that we have and the star players that we have. So I'm looking forward to a good game. Obviously, I hope anyone that is making the trip to Bowling Green, Jeremiah included, I hope you have safe travels. I hope you enjoy your time in Bowling Green. It is a great city. The campus is beautiful. I hope you get time to walk around and see the sights. Like I've said on Twitter, if anybody coming needs recommendations, parking, restaurants, just things to do, feel free to slide in my DMs or Tyler's, my co-host, and we'll be glad to point you around where you might go. Or if you're at the game, we'll gladly meet up with you. We'll definitely be there. Before I let you get out of here, I want both of y'all get a chance if you want to plug anything or any final words. Feel free to do that. I appreciate y'all coming on.
Ben, are we going to do the thing?
Do the thing.
Flames.
Go Tops, guys. Appreciate y'all coming on. All right. Really appreciate those guys from the Fan the Flames podcast jumping on and joining us and really, giving us more knowledge than, ESPN articles or Phil Steele, would have given us. They really helped us get a full look at some of those offensive and defensive players that we need to be aware of and just what it's going to take for Liberty to try to get this win. They gave us their keys to victory. Obviously, we'll share ours here a little later. I'm going to jump in that right now, actually. This really feels like a must-win game. It feels like we've got to get our offense back on track. We've really been inconsistent the last several games. So let's jump into those keys of victories. What you got for me? Start it off.
I'm going to say get the offense going for a full game. We ain't really seen that, especially in the past couple of weeks, and it's been our little bugaboo. Hopefully we can get it going. We can score in the first and second half and not just in the first half.
Yeah, my number one key to victory is definitely finishing drives, kind of in that same vein. We have to score points. I don't care if it's field goals or touchdowns. We've got to move the ball. We've got to keep drives alive. Quite frankly, their offense is pretty good. As good as we thought ours was going to be, theirs is pretty good, averaging over 36 points per game. So we've got to put points on the board. It's one of those games that could come down to a last possession potentially. Every point is going to be at a premium here. So, we need to leave Tom Ellard on the sideline. Sorry, buddy. Sorry, mate. Stay over there. Let Austin and Lucas handle the scoring duties for this game because we're definitely going to need those points. What about your number two key to victory?
Make them a one-dimensional team. They do like to pass the ball. They also like to run the ball. Their quarterback is their second leading rusher on their team. Surprise, surprise, another one of them guys. And I think if we shut down the run game, our D-backs and all that should be able to handle, their passing games. Definitely make them one-dimensional instead of having to let them dictate what they're going to do.
Very true. We know our defense has been tested in the rush department for sure. My second key to victory is going to be win the turnover margin, win the turnover battle. We're currently leading or near the lead in the nation in takeaways, and we're near the nation's leader in turnover difference. So we need to keep that trend and that streak alive. It tends to lend itself to a more higher likelihood of winning the ball game. If we can take the ball away from their offense two to three times and hopefully not cough it up any ourselves, put our offense back on the field, put them back on the sideline, and hopefully let Austin, Malachi, and company, put together some drives and put some points on the board. So my second is win the turnover battle. What about your third?
Well, it's going to be an echo one that you already said. Don't leave points on the field. I like Tom Ellard. I like him. I think he's a great guy. Please stay on the sideline in this game. I don't want you out there, flipping the field. I want you to. I want us to score points on every drive possible. 7 or 3. Cannot have a lot of empty possessions in this game.
Yeah, and then my third is going to be just containing the run. I don't expect by any means. I don't think we'll stop the run. I think our run defense is adequate. We do give up a lot of yards, but I think what we saw versus Troy and what we've seen against Jacksonville State is when teams are successful running the ball on first and second down, they get into those third and short situations. They have a much higher likelihood of sustaining the drives. And Liberty's converting third downs at 48.8%, so nearly half of them they're converting, which is a huge number. We've got to contain that run, that threat, keep them behind schedule, keep them at third and long, make them open up and drop back and pass. Granted, Caden Salter is a able passer. He can do it, but they seem to prefer to run. So we need to contain the run, put them behind schedule, and give ourselves a better chance of getting our defense off the field, put the offense back on the field. Tyler, what is your score prediction for this game versus Liberty?
Let me scroll down here too, because I think I had this one 38-35 preseason. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game, and it could come. It could be like a 2014 Marshall WKU game where we had to win on the 2-point conversion. So I'm going to go 22-21. Good guys win. Put the Flames out.
Put the Flames out. I like it. I hope it happens. I've got a little bit more points. I'm being glass half full. I'm being optimistic. I'm hoping that our offense that we've seen in spurts against Louisiana Tech, against Middle, against USF, Houston Christian, those spurts of offense where we put up a lot of points and move the ball. I hope that comes back because I'm sure that Liberty is going to put up some points. They can move the ball. They're very effective as an offense. So I see this game going 38-31 in favor of WKU. That's above the over. That's obviously WKU winning by more than the 3 that Liberty is favored by. So I'd love to see that happen. I hope it does. I have faith. All is not lost. We still have a conference championship to play for. What about your MVT? Who's your most valuable topper versus Liberty?
Well, before tonight, after last Tuesday, I was going to say Tom Ellard because he comes out there, he does his job, he's very effective at his job. But cooler heads have prevailed. I've chilled. I'm going to go. I still like to see that run game get busted open and busted wide open. I think I'm going to go Elijah Young for this MVT. I really think the running backs could get out there, be effective, and maybe soften up some of the defense on Malachi Corley, Messer, River Helms, and all them.
Yeah, I'm going with Austin Reed. I'm going with QB1. He needs to have kind of a settle in, bounce back game. Didn't have a terrible game versus Jacksonville State. Was 24 out of 48, 250 yards. But we kind of need him to step up and, be pushing that 60+% completion percentage, multiple touchdown passes, no interception. Just, be that nation's leading passer that we saw last year. Be that senior leader. Be that, that leader in the huddle, that energy. Bring that to the field. We know he's a very energetic and charismatic player. You see him when he comes to the sidelines when he's frustrated. Some people hate that about him. I love it about him. He's a competitor. He's a baller. He wants to be out there just making plays. And doesn't always work out that way, obviously. Nobody's going to be 100% perfect. But, I think Austin Reed needs to be the guy that leads us to victory, as underdogs right now. If we're going to win, I think he's going to have a big game. So I hope everyone comes out. This is really a big game. Like Hunter Lee touched on earlier with the weather is looking great. We're looking at, high 72 around kickoff. I think around 65 by the end of the game. So nice, cool, perfect football weather night. Obviously, the pregame concert, Jordan Davis on South Lawn there at 5 p.m. We're debuting the Big Red position decal helmets. I mean, this is a huge game. Not only in the pecking order of the standings of Conference USA, but it could ultimately, like we said earlier, determine who is going to host the conference championship game if both of our teams win out the rest of the season. WKU Sports did debut and offer a ticket offer promotion, $5 tickets to the game. So hopefully that'll drive some more attendance, some more people that, maybe were on the fence. Those $25, $30 tickets aren't as enticing, but some $5 tickets and a pregame concert and a blackout. I mean, that hopefully should reel some people to come in. This team really needs all the support they can get. I'm expecting just a very competitive game. I think Liberty is coming into this conference and going to be really good just across the board. On their podcast that we did earlier, I told them exactly that. I think they're going to come in and just be a good addition to this conference. Everybody needs to show up. We need to wear black. It is a blackout. And let's be loud. Don't give up on the team yet. We're still playing for a conference championship. So, Tyler, jump in here. Give us your final words and thoughts and take us the heck out of here.
Well, it's like I told you before we started recording. Western really missed an opportunity for having Lil Wayne come in like it was rumored that he was supposed to come in there, say, "Shh, the fireman coming." But we got Jordan Davis. Should be a good concert. $5 promotion. I did that. I've got the tickets. I'm coming there. I took the day off from work. Hopefully that environment will be loud. It will be hostile towards Liberty, friendly to us, and just come on out, people. I'm going to echo you real quick, Stephen. Come on out and support this team. We're still fighting for a conference championship towards the end. So far, we're still going for that. Still fighting for that pecking order, like he said earlier. It's going to be a beautiful day. There's no reason not to come out to support the Tops on this one. Come out, be loud, have fun, have a ball out there. And with that, I will say, Mauve, who has it better than us?
Nobody, buddy. You always know.
You dang right.
Go Tops.
Go Tops, y'all.
Later, guys.